Welcome back. Now, it would be a landmark day for India's telecom sector. Prime Minister Narendra Modi would be launching 5G services at the India Mobile Congress tomorrow. Now, Reliance Industries Chairman Mukesh Ambani, Bharti Group Chairman Sunil Bharti Mittal and Aditya Birla Group Chairman Kumar Mangalam Birla will be present at the event. Now, Mukesh Ambani will be speaking at the Reliance AGM earlier last month, promised a pan-India 5G coverage by December of 2023. Airtel, meanwhile, is looking at a March 2024 deadline for a comprehensive 5G coverage. Vodafone Idea is yet to come up with a timeline. So, as we enter the 5G era, the big question that we're asking is that does the telecom sector have the resources for a seamless rollout? Now, the affordability of 5G handsets is directly linked to 5G adoption. How affordable would 5G smartphones be? What about Vodafone Idea? Are they yet to come up with a timeline? Well, to take this discussion forward, I'm now joined by former Telecom Secretary R. Chandrashekhar, as well as Purushothaman KG, partner and head of digital solutions and a telecom leader, KPMG in India. Mr. Chandrashekhar, let me come to you now. The first question is, we're looking for a big 5G launch tomorrow. All the industry heads will be there. The Prime Minister of the country will be there. The telecom minister, of course, will also be present. The question that I'm asking essentially is that from an industry perspective, is India 5G ready?
Well, tomorrow is obviously a significant day in India's telecom history and evolution. And with the 5G spectrum auctions having just been concluded, all the basics are in place. Obviously, for the telcos, it will take a little while for them to, execute their rollout plans. It will take them some while to spread the infrastructure. The overall timelines, I think, have been indicated, as you just mentioned, both by Jio and by Bharti, and probably Vodafone will do so sooner or later. So, how quickly they're able to complete that rollout as planned, how quickly they're able to put that infrastructure in place, how quickly the devices that are needed by consumers and subscribers to get the 5G services are brought out. What is the price point at which those devices will be available? What's the pricing model, etc. All of these are going to be questions which will determine the uptake. So I presume when you say, how ready are we, it is a question of how quick the uptake can be. The other question is that 5G, I think, is particularly in the case of 5G, the use cases are important. What are the applications that you can actually have with 5G? Because if you tell me that I'm just going to use it to make a phone call, then whether it is 5G or 4G, it may not make that big a difference. But when you come to things like, education or immersive entertainment or advanced healthcare, or certain kinds of advanced agricultural services. So there are all these kinds of things which can be done with 5G, which are not possible with 4G or 3G. So how long it takes for those applications to develop, how much uptake there will be. These are the questions, I think, which will determine readiness in an overall context. It's not just a readiness in terms of spectrum being available. It's not even just a question of how much investment there will be, but all of these factors together will, I think, determine the readiness and the uptake and the speed at which that happens across the country. Ashmit?
Sure. Mr. Purushothaman, let me come to you now. As far as industry is concerned, back of the envelope calculation suggests that the industry is looking at investments of anywhere about 2 to 2.5 lakh crore rupees. These are very big numbers we're discussing here, especially in context of one of the three operators struggling to even pay their tower dues. So the question I'm essentially asking you is that when we're looking at these timelines stretching across the next 18 to 24 months, how feasible are they? And do you think there's that kind of appetite within the industry to make those kind of big capex spends?
So thanks, Ashmit, for having me on the show. I'll answer your question from two perspectives. One, when we say that the rollout of network is going to happen, it has to be seen in the context of what has already been achieved in terms of the 4G rollout and the tower rollouts. Our expectation is that anywhere between 70 to 75% of the 5G rollouts will happen over the existing passive infrastructure, and gradually it will move to a greenfield kind of a rollout. So when it comes to the infrastructure, the passive infrastructure, it will have to be augmented. The current sites will have to get augmented by additional capacity, which will be for 5G specifically. There's a study that has also been done in terms of the expectation in terms of the rollout of BTS. In 2021, the number of BTS that has been rolled out in the Indian context is anywhere in the range of 2 to 2.2 million BTS rollouts that have happened, and it's expected to move up to 3 million by 2026 with 5G becoming pervasive. Now, to answer your question, it is going to be a staged rollout. And as Mr. Chandrashekhar also said, the investments that the telcos will focus on will be not only to roll out the network to identify use cases that will service retail customers, but also industry use cases. A lot of work is being done by the telcos in augmenting the edge compute capacity of their data centers, also in arriving at use cases which are very relevant for industry and enterprise kind of scenarios. So the kind of rollouts that you might expect may not only be for the retail customers, but a large number of use cases will also come from enterprises. Now,
Sure.
So because it is going to be a staged rollout, and the expectation is going to be in the next 2 years, the industry is working towards not only a model by rolling out in priority circles, but also for enterprise use cases that will
Correct. So that's essentially the expectation that the rollout, when inauguration takes place tomorrow, will primarily be in some of the key urban centers. Think of Delhi, Bombay, Kolkata, Bangalore, Chennai. That's essentially what's expected from tomorrow. But Mr. Chandrashekhar, let me come to you now from a consumer standpoint. The kind of big capex spends we're talking will necessarily translate into higher pricing, premium pricing. There was a recent study done which suggested that at least amongst the 100 million 5G phone users, there is that excitement to go ahead and to upgrade to 5G. Do you think that excitement will in any shape or form be dampened by the high prices that are expected? What is your expectation on tariffs?
Well, obviously, I think the initial coverage and the initial uptake in terms of individual consumers would be in the higher paying segment and those who have a higher paying capacity, and it would be for, as I said, for things which you can do with 5G. Whether it is gaming or whether it is education or whether it is certain kinds of immersive entertainment and so on. Those kinds of things, I think, may be relatively few in number to begin with, but it's very difficult to predict what would be the uptake, because some of these things like gaming have proved very addictive in other countries and have attracted a large number of users. India, with a young population, could also find some such killer users apart from the entertainment, which normal movies and videos and so on, which are already quite prevalent even in the rural areas through 4G. So I think those are the things that we will have to see how the consumer behavior is and how willing they are to pay those higher prices. As far as the telco service providers are concerned, I mean, I agree that actually the enterprises would be the first priority, and the use cases also would be developed keeping some of those in mind. So I think this is the kind of combination that I see happening. Now we also see another interesting differentiation that Jio has indicated that they will have a standalone 5G network, whereas the others are perhaps starting with 5G on existing 4G, and eventually they might gravitate to a standalone 5G network. All of these will also have some implications for the kind of user experience and the kind of applications that they will be able to avail of. And these will also determine the uptake. So the bottom line is, I may be willing to pay more if I can do something different or if my experience is significantly different. And starting in the urban areas, therefore, makes sense. But once you get a feel of what is catching on, then the spread to the rural areas can be very fast, depending on how things play out.
Right. That's an interesting argument that it's all dependent on the use cases. Well, tomorrow is when the India Mobile Congress begins, and that's when perhaps these companies will display some of these use cases and how the technology is to be deployed going forward. But on that note, I'd like to thank both of our panelists for joining us and sharing their insight and perspective with us. But that's all the time that we have for. It's a wrap on this edition of News Center. Thanks so much for watching.